nothing compared to these. These lights aren't shooting in, you know, and showing the bones in my fingers. They're barely lighting up my face. Can you, and that's in that narrow spectrum of light. Can you, and my skin's designed to take that and turn it into vitamin A. But you go the other route, it's very, very dangerous. Another bogus study claims irradiation by TSA body scanners are safe. They also claim irradiating food safe. Still no independent testing despite cancer warnings from experts. Yeah, they keep lying to Congress for like 4 years saying, oh, it's safe, it's safe. However, even LA Times report itself admits that analysts will likely not allay concerns because once again, no independent testing of the body scanners is undertaken. As the report notes, Schmidt did not test the actual machines. Instead, she based her conclusions on scanner radiation data released publicly by the TSA. And if she's the same Schmidt lady I saw, she's being paid by the company that's developing these. I saw that last week. And in fact, is that article? I didn't read the whole article. Does it break down that that a bunch of these experts promoting them actually work for these companies or have contracts? Just amazing. Indeed, even Johns Hopkins scientists have warned that TSA body scanners will lead to an increase in cancers. But now they say, hey, it's safe for the troops to use DU with no contamination, decontamination procedures. They're saying Fukushima's no big deal. This stuff is all in your face. Put that full screen back up there because this article is important. They've told Congress that they won't let them see the actual screening documents. They've told them this. They've lied to us and said Johns Hopkins supports them and says there's no radiation, and then Johns Hopkins' own scientists come out and say actually their reports say the opposite. This is a group of congenital liars. Just last week they said, on Friday we covered it, that they're allowed to lie to the American people and lie to Congress. This is a rogue group where they're hiring pedophiles to be the head TSA people in almost every major city because only they want to sit there and grope little children and women and old people. Incredible. Now, speaking of that, we want to talk about Janet Napolitano now. Janet Napolitano has accelerated the police state massively, and she's agreed to come on the show tonight. Janet, come on, please. There she is, showing her true form. Oh, wait, a TSA bat boy. I'm told that's what she's about to give birth to. Yep. Oh, what? You got to be kidding me. Did you see that? Guys, can we have an instant replay of that? That is incredible. Can we have her back on the show? What an incredible human being she is. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, she's very proud of her. Oh, here they come. Highway checkpoints. I mean, these people are cancer. I didn't know she was actually the star playing the alien from the 1984 John Carpenter film, The Thing, but there you go. Okay, we're going to go to this William F. Engdahl interview with Patrick Henningsen from the big conference they had last week. We're going to be doling these out all week. Max Kaiser, you name it. We showed you a compilation last Friday, a few snippets of the people he interviewed, but here is William F. Engdahl coming up after the Daily Quote. A government for protecting business only is but a carcass and soon falls by its own corruption and decay. Amos Branson Alcott. And that was back in 1799. Well, he was born in 1799 and lived through 1888, was an American teacher, writer, philosopher, and reformer. Well, what about government for big corporations to shut down your competition? That's the real threat. Okay, here's the William F. Engdahl interview from the Financial Terrorism Conference. Then we're going to go to break in teleprompter-free news and come back with John Rappaport with an in-depth interview on what this means to the Liberty Movement. Rand Paul, he only endorsed Dark Sidious because Dark Sidious said he wouldn't like him if he didn't endorse him. So I think it's reasonable. So we're going to be talking about that coming up with John Rappaport as well. Another jam-packed original transmission of INFOWARS Nightly News. Don't forget, 15-day free trial, PrisonPlanet.tv to see this when it first airs, and 9 years of material at PrisonPlanet.tv. So here's the Financial Terrorism Conference interview with William F. Engdahl. Have interviews all week long. The great work of Patrick Henningsen. And then we'll go to break, come back with John Rappaport. Stay with us.
I'm F. William Engdahl. I'm an author, a lecturer on geopolitics. I've published books on the subject in 11 foreign languages, from China to Korea to Germany to Russia to France and beyond. English, of course. And I live here in Europe, have been for some years. And basically what I do with my books is try to shed light on various dark corners so that ordinary people will get an idea of what's been done to us and act accordingly depending on their information.
And tell us about your speech today, which I saw in relation to the theme, financial terrorism, and how you felt, why you felt it's important to be here.
Okay. Well, I was asked to speak on this tour. It actually started in Dublin a week ago, and yesterday we were in Manchester in Northern England, and today in London at the coincidental time of the Queen's Jubilee, which is a rather bizarre clown show. And the theme of the conference, or the series, is financial terrorism. And my message, I talk about this in my book, The Gods of Money, Wall Street and the Death of the American Century, not the American dollar, but the American century as a system, is that there is no such thing as capitalism as a closed economic system like feudalism and so. But what we're in, and we've been in for nigh on to 5,000 years now, if you want to count it that way, is a system of hidden debt slavery that certain powerful elites have set up. They had run it out of Venice hundreds of years ago. Then the power of Venice collapsed, and they moved the headquarters of this debt slavery to the city of Amsterdam. That collapsed in the 1790s, and it moved to the Bank of England and the city of London. After World War II in 1944, it moved to Wall Street and the gods of money in Wall Street. So what I went through is the different phases of this crisis building up in the period since Bretton Woods, 1944, in my own lifetime, and to give people an idea, there is no out. We're not in a recession. I've said this on Alex Jones's program, I think about 4 years ago, that this is not an ordinary recession. It's the early phase of a global depression that is going to make the 1930s look mild by comparison, depending on what we ordinary citizens do about it. So we are in the beginning of a massive debt collapse, and of course the masters of money, the gods of money, want to steer that collapse to their advantage, so they get private debt of fraudulent criminal banks like Allied Irish and other banks, most of the big ones, too big to fail so-called, and they put the burdens of their crimes on the public taxpayer, who were innocent to begin with and had no responsibility for these crimes. And so Greek taxpayers, Irish taxpayers, Spanish taxpayers are now coughing up the money through their own pensions, through their own wages that are being slashed dramatically. And that's the whole austerity theme that has been ravaging Europe for the last several years. And it's not going to get better. These bailouts, smart money knows that these bailouts are a fraud. So they're all preparing to short all these markets and make a huge killing on that. Well, what was launched in what began in Tunisia with the so-called Arab Spring was a rolling destabilization engineered by the Pentagon, engineered by the National Endowment for Democracy, a U.S. government-financed NGO that does today what the CIA used to do 25, 35 years ago, namely regime change to a more Wall Street-friendly order. And what they're trying to do is create what they did with the collapse of the Soviet Union 20 years ago, namely force these countries under the IMF thumb, create chaos, create disinvestment in order to bring control of the vast oil wealth of these countries, the enormous resources and savings of these monarchies and countries under the control of the Wall Street gods of money. Wall Street, the city of London, it doesn't matter much, the distinction. And not only that, but to create this chaos and instability geopolitically because of the emergence of a new economic center of gravity, geopolitical center of gravity, and that's called Eurasia. Eurasia goes from Western Europe, from the Atlantic to the Pacific, Vladivostok, and the easternmost part of Russia, but it includes China and Russia most especially. And to the extent that Brazil and South Africa try to coordinate with that, join in with that, make their trades not in dollars as an intermediate currency, they become part of this. And as I see it, it's a counterweight to one sole superpower dictating to the entire world with the military might of all other countries combined and then some. I think it's much healthier to have a counterweight system of some sort. How it will sort itself out, and whether China will break, whether Russia will break, it's an open question, but after all, life is always an open question. So I think this is the geopolitics of this whole crisis, the Arab Spring and so forth. And what happened in Syria, that was a Pentagon, CIA financed destabilization with Sarkozy's France playing a dirty, dirty role in there. The US tried to get Turkey, the Erdogan government in Turkey, to play the dirty role that Sarkozy played in the Libya bombardment. He was forced to back down because 23% of the Turkish population, I was recently in Turkey for a presentation of the Gods of Money book, and Erdogan was forced to back down because 23% of his own people are Alawite Muslim, the same as al-Assad. And what happened is Russia and China this time, they made the mistake, and I was in China and in Russia, and I talked to people there last fall after the fall of the Gaddafi regime in Libya. They said we were duped, we were lied to by Washington, and we didn't want to get involved, so we stayed neutral in the Security Council vote that allowed them to get away with murder. But this time we've drawn a line in the sand, because if Syria falls, then Iran will fall. Iran is a major source playing outside the music of the Anglo-Saxon debt slavery system right now. So they realize that these dominoes, one by one, if they just keep letting it happen. And that's causing huge headaches in Washington. They, Hillary Clinton acknowledges working with Al-Qaeda. Wasn't this Osama bin Laden, this funny fellow with this funny turban back in 2001 that was supposed to be the #1 enemy of America? Now we're working with his organization. Really, do they expect that we're so stupid and so short-term memory as some of these Pentagon planners or State Department planners, or what's really going on here? I think what's going on with Syria, Israel, Iran, and so forth is, frankly, I don't think the government in Israel is at all happy with the Arab Spring in any way, shape, or form. Here you have Muslim Brotherhood regimes coming into power in Egypt. You have them coming into power. The opposition in Syria is Muslim Brotherhood, and it's creating instability on Egypt's borders. I think, if anything, there's a very heavy dialogue covertly going on between Tel Aviv and Damascus about how to stabilize the Assad regime, because he poses no threat to Israel's security, quite the opposite. And Assad plays a crucial role in keeping Lebanon, which is on the Israeli borders, keeping Lebanon stable. So I think it's quite different from how the media is playing it.
Do you think a potential war with Iran down the road, what are the risks for the rest of the world?
I've said this for 5 years. There will be no shooting war, not from the Israeli side. I think the general staff of the Israeli Defense Forces would resign in a minute, and the former Mossad chiefs have said the same thing. Iran does not pose a threat to the security of Israel. There's all sorts of games going on, dog and pony shows and saber rattling, but a war is not going to happen, and certainly not from the side of the U.S. So I don't see that. It's manipulations going on to short different stocks and to play around with the price of oil. Well, Bilderberg, I think some people try to mystify the Bilderberg and make it into the great boogie bear that is controlling the universe.